everyone, welcome back to the Growing Together podcast with me, Sonny Vasquez.
And me, Cesar Santos.
A podcast where we talk about everything under the sun related to growth and becoming your best self. Today's theme is actually going to be called the comparison game / sibling rivalry. So I thought, what better way to talk about siblings and comparison than to bring no other than my twin onto the podcast.
Hello, Rianna.
Hello.
You want to introduce her? You just say your twin, but like...
So this is my twin, identical twin sister, Rianna. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Sonny's twin sister.
I think people are going to think that she's talking to herself.
Yeah, it looks like that's what people used to think when I was at work. What do you do for your living? Where do you spend your time?
I spend my time taking care of people as a nurse tech.
And what do you want to do with that?
I want to be, the end game is an RN, which I should be by the end of this year.
Woo!
Woo!
Frontliners!
With Ted Lasso's, whoa, 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 whoa.
I forgot about that.
Oh, I should laugh. Okay, so basically, Rianna actually came to me with this topic because she was like, oh, that's like, obviously, it's something we can relate to because we were twins growing up. Obviously, you're not a twin, Cesar. So that's why I put the sibling rivalry part in it because you do have siblings, and that also plays into everything that we're going to talk about today. But the first thing I thought we would talk about was obviously me and Rianna growing up as a twin. Rianna actually sent me this study, and I was doing some reading on it, about twins, and like the reason that we study twins is because they can give us insight into like kind of nature versus nurture, like your environment, how much your environment plays into your upbringing. Did you want to like touch on what you were reading, Rianna?
Basically, this study, like she said, shows the nature versus nurture, how twins that were like separated at birth or, somehow got separated, like years later when they reconnected, they are noticed doing similar type jobs, living in similar environments, having similar likes, even though they grew up completely separate.
Yeah, like they were, I think though in the study, they were two twin boys, they're identical twins, and they didn't meet each other until they were 39 years old.
Wow.
Like 39. So they were separated. They had no idea about each other. I think in the study it said they had the same names. They had the same wives' names.
What?
And like the same second wives' names. And like people were like, is it coincidence? No. But I do want to bring this up because I feel like Rianna and I had a very different experience growing up as twins. And I think, Cesar, you know a little bit about this because me and Rianna used to fight all the time and you would witness like me fighting with her on FaceTime. But how would you describe growing up as a twin, Rianna?
I feel like growing up as a twin, everybody sees it as like, so like, ideally, like, it's so cool, and I think me and Sonny can both, back then we would disagree, we're like, oh no, it sucks. It is a big game. It's like, I feel like it compares to sibling rivalry, but like 10 times more, because it's like you're the same person, so people think of you as the same person. People never referred to me and Sonny as Sonny and Rianna. They're like, oh, the twins. Yeah. So it was always lumped up
fucking
together.
Annoying.
So not only are other people, lumping you guys together, you, I guess, like, subconsciously do it as well because you grow up with that person and you see them. You guys, like, it's hard not to compare because you're the same age, you're the same grade. You guys are supposed to be doing the same things, and sometimes that's not always happening. So it's an easy way to have a sibling rivalry right there start. Just being a twin in general.
Dang.
I think so too, because Rianna and I were always lumped together, we always tried to separate ourselves from each other, like whether it was like cutting our hair different or wearing different clothes or having different styles. Like we didn't want anyone to like compare us, so we tried to be like drastically different, and like we didn't even want to have the same group of friends. that's how far we went with trying to make sure everyone knew that we were separate people.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, that was so, like, I don't know if you've experienced this, but, like, for instance, if I had a teacher that had Rianna in her class, or Rianna had a teacher that had me in her class, like, 1 year after, the teachers compare. They're like, oh, like, you're not as smart as your sibling, or, oh, you're not as, like, oh, you're so different, and because they expect you to be so similar. Even with my brother, for instance, I had a class in high school that I took where my brother took it the previous year, and when you let them know, like, oh, yeah, that was my brother, they're like, oh, like, they start comparing, like, how you line up in comparison to, like, even your siblings. Like, did you ever experience that?
A little bit of something like that, what you guys are explaining. It's just more of like, they see you as like the younger, especially since I was the youngest in my family.
Cesar with the baby.
It was always like, oh, you're in high school, like, oh, you're Santos's brother. And they always even called like baby Santos or whatever.
That is so cute, though. I would love to be called
that was my
like
nickname. I remember that. But yeah, I was always more looked at just like as the younger sibling, the youngest.
Did you feel the need to compete, like, with your siblings? Like, did you feel like you had to perform better at certain things that they had done previously?
No, I'm trying to think. Maybe there was a little bit of competition, but not that I can remember.
Here's a question, though. Did you guys argue at all?
Yeah, we did. All of us did.
Like, what were your arguments typically about?
It's always like about...
Like, I'm talking like teen years. Obviously, like, when you're a younger kid, it's way easier. I think it's different when you're a little bit younger. But, like, when you're in your teens, like, the arguments are about different things. Yeah,
it's more about, like, them wanting the best for you. So, like, inserting themselves in your life. Stuff like that.
See, that's not what I picture, though. Yeah. Me and Rianna didn't argue because we wanted what was best for each other. We argued because we annoyed the shit out of each other. Like, Rianna would go, like, we wouldn't leave for school at the same time, mind you. Like, obviously we went to the same school, we were in the same grade in high school.
Yeah,
we didn't leave to the same side, so I would leave earlier, and Rianna would get to school shown up in like all of my stuff, and like just because she knew like once she left she could like take all of it, and I would be so mad. Like, and I'd be like, I would literally call my mom crying. I'm like, she's taking my stuff. Like, she won't stop. Like, I don't think if me and Rianna were in high school, any of our arguments were about, yeah, I just want what's best for you. It was more like, bring this bitch down. Like,
what do you have to say, Rianna?
I think that a lot of it, though, was also the need to, like, be our own person. So, like, maybe, like, as far as, like, our separate friend groups go, like, we really wanted to separate ourselves. We did have separate friend groups, and, like, if I asked to go with Sonny somewhere, like, with her group of friends, like, in high school, she'd be like, no, like, those are my friends. Like, there was this need to not want to share because we had finally found, like, our own niche. So even when those niche kind of crossed over, we didn't want them to. Because it was like, oh, well, what if they like her better? Because even then, like, even when we separate ourselves as much, if someone knew Sonny but they didn't know me, like, they could make whatever preconceived notions that they had based off what Sonny says about me because I'm her sister. But once they met me, it was different. So it was like almost like, well, what if they like my sister better? Because a lot of people our friend group really only did know one of us. Like, they knew we were twins, but we didn't like go out of our way to introduce like our So it was kind of like wanting to keep stuff of our own, like, because we grew up with everything being shared, like birthday presents, like friends, like our parties. It was always like, this is for Sonny and Rianna. Like,
it's like, what do you? That's the worst thing you can do. Like, there's a special place in hell for people. I'm just kidding, that's drastic. But for people who buy one gift for a set of twins, like, here, share it. Cesar knows this because I don't share with Cesar because I always had to share things. I told him what's mine is mine because I literally grew up sharing everything I owned with another person. I was like, I want my own stuff. But I think this is that even though Rianna and I were twins, we do have an older brother, which I think plays into some of the sibling rivalry too. But just between me and Rianna, we had despite being raised by obviously these same parents, we had very different upbringings. Like, Rianna wasn't what you would say the favorite child. it was like more like I was the little golden egg for my parents, and I think that pissed Rianna off more to not like me.
Is that true?
I think that they definitely lead a lot into it because, like, I'm a parent, so I know, like, I see my kid, and not purposely, but you compare your kid to other people, whether it's their siblings or other people's kids and stuff. So I'm sure my parents were like, they saw Sonny, and Sonny was like, just overachiever always, and like, my parents will tell you even now they never saw me do homework, and it wasn't because I didn't do it. I just found other time to do it, rather than when I was at home. But they saw Sonny, sitting at the table doing her homework, reading the books, and Sonny's teacher saw this, so they put her in the advanced classes and stuff. And I was cool where I was. I wasn't begging to be any better. I was content. So Sonny they always had that, like, Sonny is gonna pay the bills when we're older because she's so smart. And, I was I wasn't that smart. I just didn't apply myself like she did in that time. Not until, like, we got into high school and I was like, I kind of need to do this stuff now. But even then, when I did start, like, trying, I was always like, Sonny does this many and Rianna's doing this many. So it was always a constant, like, okay, well, I wanted to be, like, at the same pace as she was, but it was not me. That's not who I was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I think that's true. Like, too, it's the only, like, a lot of the decisions I made were probably despite Rianna. Like, to make her seem like, like, not as, like, I mean, the thing is, like, I don't think, obviously, like, I love our parents. I don't think they did it intentionally. But when you get that validation, like, oh, like, they're so proud of all these things, so let me continue doing all these things. And then I think from Rianna's point, like, if I would, like, see how it works in her mind, it's like, well, I'm never gonna, like, that's not what I want to do, so there's no point in wasting my time trying just for, like, the validation. Yeah. Whereas I was a kid who grew up needing, like, all of the validation, so anything I could do to get that validation, I was gonna do it. So I, like, and the thing is, I had Rianna to learn from of, like, what not to do. That pissed my parents off. No, because she was, like, more rebellious, and, like, I wasn't someone to rebel. And even my brother, though, like, it's not just Rianna, like, I had my older brother to learn from, like, oh, he did that pissed my mom off, like, let me not do that. So, like, I had, like, two siblings where it was like, okay, I get insight of, like, how to, like, tread, like, this middle line of, like, just constantly pleasing my parents. And Rianna, yeah, Rianna's like, I set the bar so it could be easy for you. But yeah, I think that affected obviously, like, the relationship Rianna and I had, because we were obviously constantly compared. But we also, like, I don't know, I think it just made us not like each other. Like, we really, just because we had such different perspectives, it made it so hard to get along. And I think a lot of people, like Rianna said earlier, like, they were like, you're twins, it must be the coolest thing. Is she your best friend? And whenever I tell people, like, actually, no, we pretty much hate each other, they would be like, really? I'm like, yeah, we're just two different people. Like, we're identical, and, like, you'll look at us and you'll be able to tell we're identical twins, and you'll hear our voice and be like, you guys sound the same. But when it comes to, like, what our interests are, they are so vastly different. So when Rianna showed me that study that these twins grew up apart from each other and had such similar interests, it's like, me and Rianna, like, Rianna's a nurse, I'm in marketing. That's, like, nothing of the same, like, sort. And I'm not interested in being a nurse. Like, I don't like any of that stuff, but Rianna likes all that stuff. Yeah. So it's, like, very different. It's interesting to see how different we are. And now I wonder, like, reading that study, are we different because we forced ourselves to be different? If we would have just let, like, the process go, you think that we would be more similar?
Well, this is what I was going to ask, is, like, did you guys ever know any other group of twins growing up?
Yeah.
And how are...
In our high school and even our middle school growing up, there were several different twins, and how me and Sonny compare to them is very interesting, because, like, those twins kind of embraced the twin thing.
Yeah.
Like, well, like, they were all identical. Like, we had a set of boy twins in our elementary, like, through high school we knew them, and they were similar, like, very similar, and liked the similar things. They got along. They were brothers. From what we can see on the outside, they were pretty cool with being the whole twin thing. And then we had twins that, dressed similar all the way throughout high school, and were, like, pretty
You
much
couldn't
similar.
tell them apart. Like, that's how,
You
like...
couldn't tell them apart. Yeah, and they had similar, like, names, like, starting with the same letter and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was
Really?
crazy.
But when we definitely, I think it was a forced thing for us because of how, like, people treated us. I think we realized that, like, very early on that people grouped us together.
Mhm.
So it definitely was something, like, we tried to separate. But now, like you say, like, Sonny says, like, oh, well, now look, Rihanna's going to be a nurse and, like, she's in marketing. It's kind of like the tables have turned because, like, we joke about it. Like, no one would think that me, like, would be the one with a nursing degree. Like, because I saw Sonny doing everything in high school and during all the extra work and all that, and it just didn't seem appealing to me. And, like, I took AP classes my senior year and all that, but now that I look at it, like, I think I didn't, like, apply myself like I probably could have back then because there was always that comparison. So I was like, there's no point in competing. Where now is I don't have that comparison because we live 3,000 miles away, and, like, my only people, like, I'm in competition with are the other nursing school students I'm with. So it's like I'm more doing this for me than I am.
Unless I decide to be a nurse, and then there's the competition.
I'm doing it now more for me, and I have more of an understanding of that, like, being, you know, older and wiser than I am now. So it's like, I think that we definitely forced it. Like, I think maybe if we grew up in a similar environment, obviously we grew up in the same household, but we made our environments different.
Yeah, we, like, forced it. I would say that my dad probably didn't want it that way because there was a time when me and my sister were really, really young where, like, we were inseparable, and, like, I would call her sister. I was like, sister, and my dad got so mad. I was like, you need to call her name. Her name's Rianna. And he, like, did not want us to referring to each other as sisters. So I feel like that was his way of, like, you guys are two different people. Like, but I don't know if that was the intention. He just really got annoyed by me calling her sister.
It sounds like
but, like, I mean, yeah, like, when I think back to, like, when we were really young, I don't see as much of, like, a need to be different. Because when we were, like, in elementary school, like, we had the same haircut. We looked exactly the same. Like, we just wore different colors. And, like, yeah, it was crazy. But I read this thing that says it says research finds that pairs of sisters tend to be the closest, which I was like, this is bullshit. And that sibling dyads, I don't know what that word means, that include a brother have the most conflict. And I was like, that's interesting because obviously me and Rianna have a brother, and, like, I feel like there was a lot of conflict. I was like, what if it was Austin's fault? I'm just kidding. It's probably not his fault, but I think that has something to do with the fact is, like, me. It wasn't just me and Rianna were twins. It's that we have Rianna and me, and then we have our brother. And, like, obviously there's stuff there too.
Yeah.
But how would you think that, like, you compared yourself to, like, your brothers? Like, do you think you compared yourself to them a lot?
I'm trying to think.
Especially because, for instance, put it into perspective. Like, for instance, Noah, your oldest brother, is getting his PhD right now.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, like...
Do you ever think, like, wow, his parents are so proud of him?
That's what I was going to say, though. I for sure, like, I do think that my parents were harder on him. For sure. That's a fact. And that's why, like, he wanted to do... Like, you know, he got the best grades. He went to, like, a magnet school.
I think that has also to do not just with, like, him being the oldest, but first gen.
Well, that too, obviously. But in regards to, like, the comparison game, I feel like my parents, they just wanted to make sure that we, you know, graduated high school and didn't get in trouble and do something really stupid, right? Like, that was, like, their main priority, making sure that we're all right. But, like, I mean, they would only ever, I remember, like, my mom and my dad would only ever bring up, like, well, like, why don't you think about going to school or whatever? Just look at your brother, you know? Because obviously, like, my oldest brother went to college, university. But, I mean, it was never, like, I mean, that would be, like, the slightest comparison I can think of. You know, like, oh, look, like, your brother did this. Like, why can't you go do that? Type of thing.
Interesting. It's interesting that you didn't compare yourself to your brothers, because I feel like I don't know. I feel like that's just weird. I feel like I know brothers who compare each other. I'd be curious, though. Maybe we should bring Austin onto one of these. Oh, if he compared himself to us, or like maybe he didn't really care.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be able to speak for him, but I mean, I know at least for me, it was always more of like, it's not that we didn't compare each other. I guess it's more of like, again, like we were always looking out for the best in each other. Like whether it was Noah saying,
you're making it seem like me and are just really unhealthy and don't care about each other.
No, I'm not saying that either. It's just that people had different. I mean, this is
environment thing.
Environment, yeah, you know, culture.
The thing is, that's so funny because my mom always told us, like, my mom and dad would always say, like, when me and my sister would fight, or me and my brother and sister would fight, she'd be like, your siblings are gonna be all you have, so you should get along with them. And we were like, do you know how annoying she is? Like, we'd be like, you don't understand.
I have a question, though. What? I wonder, did you think she was annoying too?
Obviously.
I wouldn't say annoying was the word.
See, look, it's different.
Rianna said a lot of rude things to me.
I didn't think having a sister was annoying. I think having, like, just having a twin and having her being so, like, different, like, because we made ourselves different. But it was so different for me that, like, we had totally different opinions on everything. And most of the time, those opinions were, like, in spite of the other.
Yeah. Like, it honestly, for instance, like, my mom, I don't know if my mom will even listen to this, but Rianna in high school, like, when we were seniors, you know, the popular thing to do, I don't know can you get in trouble for admitting to underage drinking?
No.
Okay, good. Okay.
Pretty sure the statute of limitations is already passed anyways.
But I was really against it. I'm not admitting to anything. I'm just asking. I was really, like, I would say, like, looking back at myself, I did have quite a stick up my butt, like, just because I was really, like, just trying to do all the right things. And I found out that my sister would hang out with these friends, and it made me not like these friends that she had. But, like, I also ended up being friends with one of them. That she would, like, drink with them. And I was like, my jaw was like, what the fuck? Like, that's so stupid. I was like, why would you do that? And so I was, like, so vastly different in that mindset. And, like, where Rianna was like, you know, it's not going to kill us. Like, it's fine. And so, like, she was willing. I was always very, like, cautious, I would say. And Rianna was like, it's going to be fine. Like, you know, you live and you learn kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was just, we just had so different, like, opinions. And, you know, I set the bar so high, so, like, I'm sure that annoys people.
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, that's what annoys people, like, even now. Like, even in the workplace, that probably annoys people, having those types of people around. But, yeah, I don't think this is just about, like, twins, though. Just growing up with siblings in general is difficult. Because, like, there's such thing as, like, healthy comparison, and then there's, like, non-healthy comparison. And it's, like, there's comparison where, like, it motivates you to be better, and then there's comparison where you just never feel like you're going to be good enough.
No, that's true. I mean, I would say that there are, like, situations where I've seen, like, other siblings that I, you know, grew up with and different families and stuff where, like, they were always, like, they helped somebody out, one of the siblings, like, on a really high horse or whatever you would call it.
High horse. What's the name? What's the name of the high horse you're on?
But and then they would make the other younger siblings, like, not want to really do anything because they would always only talk about, like, that person, you know, in their family, like, and so.
You know what's interesting though is that, for instance, me and Rianna have an older brother, and so he's the firstborn. I think that plays into it too. The firstborn child can do no wrong, no matter what it is.
What do you think, Rianna?
Literally do no wrong.
I think so. Yeah, I think that, you know, like, even now when we look at it, like, and he's the only boy, so that's another thing. Like, he definitely, like, he didn't get away with a lot because we, like Sonny said, we learned a lot of things not to do. Like, when we were, like, getting into, like, the middle school and high school, like, okay, we don't need to be doing these things. But even in spite of stuff he did, you know, it was always like our parents were like always like, oh yeah, go get him, bud. Like
It was like boys will be boys kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
yeah, it was a kind of like boy thing. Like, but like you were saying, like you didn't really feel the rivalry. It was more just about like what's best for one another. Like I think that definitely has to play into the environment thing. Like me and Sonny kind of altered our environment, I would say, and made it very competitive for ourselves. Like, and even now, like when you think, like Sonny was saying, like there's good comparison and bad comparison.
Yeah.
There's a quote, and it was on my like AP comp teacher's door, and it was, comparison is the thief of joy.
It's by like Thomas Edison or something. No. It's like by some, like I saw that yesterday when I was doing research.
But, and I very much agree with that, because even now, like as an adult, like me and Sonny took completely different paths going to college and whatnot. Like we both went, but I had some detours in my like road that, you know, I had my daughter, so there was always like that comparison. Like the first thing people told me was like, oh, you're not going to finish school because, you know, now you have a kid. I'm like, okay. So it's taken me longer. It's definitely taken me longer to get my degree, but it was always like, it sort of worked in my favor because it was a motivation.
Yeah.
Now that I wanted like prove myself I could do it. Like it was just me that was in charge of me being capable of doing anything rather than comparing it to anybody else. But there were times in my journey where I was like, oh my gosh, like this is taking me so long. I see, like when my sister posted her graduating from FSU, like I was happy for her. I was so proud. But like at the same time, I feel like, man, like this is where I should be. You know, my parents are so proud of her. Like she's graduated. And so there's still, even when you don't try to do it, there still is when you have siblings, because you're like, oh yeah, they're doing so much better. Or like even when you see someone like go like to the store, or like you go to the mall with friends and they're buying this and that, and you're like, oh, I can't do that. Like I can't afford that right now. You like subconsciously compare because you're like, oh my gosh, like.
I think that goes back though to like the not just the environment you grow up in, but like what the like world tells you. Like for instance, like even though I don't really compare myself to like Rianna anymore, I do compare myself to like friends that I have that, for instance, took a similar path to me. So like it's not like comparing like to people who like just went down completely. It's like I have friends that literally went to the same college, graduated with a similar major, and like are doing what I feel is like much better than what I'm doing. And so when I look at that, I'm like, it kind of is like down to like what your version of success is and what the world tells you success looks like. So it can be very like disheartening when you see someone who's literally took the same exact steps. It's literally like so disheartening when someone's taken the same exact steps that you have and they ended up somewhere different. You're like, I did all of the things that like the world said I should. I went to, for instance, I was doing research yesterday for an article outline I was outlining for work, and it was like it was like managing debt, like how to use debt, like how you can use debt to your advantage. And when I was doing research to outline the article, someone was like, yeah, you can take out student loans to get a college education. And I was like, this is so messed up to put out to the world, because honestly, in the world we live in, that's not like a great option, because there are so many companies that hire without the education. But like in the time that I grew up, the thing that you did was you graduated high school, you went directly to a 4-year university, and then you go into like your workforce. And obviously, even my path wasn't that straightforward, because I graduated high school, went to 4-year university, graduate college, but I still was working at Target when I like graduated for like a year or two. Mm-hmm. So it was like I didn't even go directly into my field because like, you know, the pandemic and stuff. But I had friends that like seemed to be doing better, and I'm like, how did they get there? And I'm like, I'm asking myself, like, should I be in a different place? You know? Mm-hmm. And so like that I would say is like not a healthy comparison, whereas like there are people who you're like, oh, like for instance, I think I even compare myself to you. Like, I see, like, how inspired you get, or, like, how creative you are, or how much you love to learn. And I'm like, okay, I gotta be more like that. And not in a negative way, like, I need to completely change myself, but, like, I need to invest more time to make things work for me. Because I feel like you very much try to make things work out. which is a healthy motivation. Like, there's something that says, there was a quote I was reading yesterday off of, I think it was on a New York Times article, and it said, sibling rivalry serves a developmental purpose. It helps people, it helps siblings find out what's special and unique about them. So, like, I think that's the one good thing that comes about it is, like, when me and Rianna were trying to be so different, we discovered, like, what made us different. Like, even though we were twins, what made us different as individuals. And, like, for instance, Rianna, when we were in high school, was really into, like, clothes and fashion. And, like, she, like, that's how she expressed herself. And a lot of times I made fun of her for it because I'm like, what the fuck are you wearing? But yeah, Rianna was literally sneezing, like, take some freaking allergy medicine. But yeah, like, Rianna would always, like, express herself through clothes. And, like, she did, like, makeup, and I didn't wear any of that.
I was actually going to say, didn't you want to do that originally, Rianna? You wanted to go to, like, fashion school?
So I did. I got accepted into a school in LA, but
it's expensive.
It is expensive, and student loans do not work how they tell you that they work.
Yeah.
So, like, I had a lot of teachers from, like, 8th grade up to senior year that told me, like, well, you can do whatever you want, like, whatever school, apply to it, like, doesn't matter if you can afford it or not. Because there's this amazing thing called FAFSA, and it's gonna fund your education, and it doesn't when your parents make too much because you have to add them on your FAFSA. Yeah. So otherwise, like, I say I got lucky that I had my daughter because more of my school was paid for because I had her because I could apply for it as independent rather than But yeah, I got accepted into that fashion school, and it was really what I wanted to do at the time. And then when I realized I couldn't go, I was like, kind of like, oh, well, I don't know what the hell I want to do. Like, so I went to school. I went to a community college while Sonny went to FSU. And because basically, like, it was, I feel this way. I'm sure it's not how it actually was. That, like, all the I don't know how to say it. Like, if someone was gonna go to college, it was gonna be Sonny. Like, so I went to community college because, like, I couldn't afford the school in LA. So then I was like, well, I probably can't afford one here.
Well, the thing is, too, is that my parents didn't want to invest in, like, trying to co-sign a loan that Rianna could get. Like, because if Rianna was gonna go to that school, she would need a, like, massive loan. And my parents, I don't know if this is how it happened, like, they didn't want to co-sign that kind of loan.
Basically, because it was significantly more expensive than, I think, Sonny's school. So I ended up going to FSU. But, so, I think that's when, like, yeah. So I went to college here. And after that, I was kind of just like, well, I don't know what I want to do because there's nothing here that, like, really, like, has a school that has the degree I want, because the degree I wanted is, like, fairly still new even now, and schools here don't have it because, like, I mean, Florida isn't, like, a fashion state. Like, they don't care. Like, it's not, like, industry, like, where you'd go to New York or, like you'd go to New York or LA for something like music or art or, like, marketing, stuff like that, where there's big business and all that kind of stuff. Florida's not like that. So I was kind of like, well, I definitely can't do that here. And, but it worked out better because I just took a bunch of random classes until I figured out what I wanted to do.
That sounds very familiar to what Sonny did in college.
I literally did that because, like, when I got to FSU, which FSU is not something you should do because you're paying for, like, those classes, but FSU has a program called Exploratory. So if you're a freshman and you get there and you have no idea what you want to do, you just sign up for, like, they have these things called FIGs, which are freshman interest groups. And, like, you sign up for one of those that piques your interest. So they have, like, creative writing FIGs, and then you take, like, just random classes. So my first year of college, I took a advertising class, which was really fun. So I almost went into advertising because it was a really good class. I took, like, a class on, like, and then obviously some prereqs. I took, like, a movie class, like, and, like, where we just watched movies and, like, analyzed. And then, like, I took, we had, like, a TA that we would meet every week, like, every Tuesday and Thursday, and we would discuss, like, you know, I don't even know what the point of it was actually. But we're in this all the classes though. It's a freshman interest group because it also helps you build community. Every class I took was with these people. So like in my movie class had the same people as like my advertising class.
Yeah.
So like it was a way to build like friendships too, and then obviously help you figure out what you want to do. And I don't even really think it helped me figure out what I want to do. Like I kind of just continued to look through like the programs that we had, because FSU does have a lot of good programs, and I was like, you know what, marketing seems solid. So I'll just do that because it aligned with like I originally wanted to be a creative writing major.
Yeah.
And so like I was like, well, that's not gonna make me any money. So like let me do marketing. But it took me some time. Like, yeah, I don't think it was like when I got to college, I didn't know. I just knew that like this was what I was supposed to do. And when I came to paying for it, like I had a 3-day orientation before like the summer before I went, and they sit the parents down and say like, this is how much everything's gonna cost. And I looked at my mom and was like, how are we even gonna pay for this? She's like, we're gonna figure it out. Like, we'll figure it out. And I was like, and I'm not sure we actually did figure it out because now I'm drowning in student debt that I now have to pay. But yeah, I mean, Rianna took like what I think is like the most logical route in the world we live in now.
It didn't feel like that. Like, yeah. I agree that it is a logical route. And at the time, I think this is where like the comparison starts again, because like my sister was going to a 4-year college, and like I was staying in our hometown, which was something me and my sister both didn't want to do. Like we wanted to get out and explore whatever. So it was kind of like a punch in the face that like I had to go to community college while she's at FSU. So I think the comparison kind of started again, because while mine was very logical and I will end school without a lot of debt, even while I kind of dilly-dallied around in random classes, yeah, it started comparison, because I was like, oh, my sister, when people asked, like, when people saw me, like, when around our hometown, you know, when people were back for the summer or whatnot, doing whatever, they were like, oh, how's your sister? How's this? And I'm like, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm great. Like,
I think it's so, too, like, there's such a...
asking about her, and I'm like, you know, there's stuff going on with me, too, and even with my family, like, I know my parents are super proud. They're like, oh, Sonny's at FSU, and, you know, well, what's Rianna doing? Oh, yeah, she's going to community college over here. And while it's a logical route, it's still very hard. It's hard to... Part of why I didn't know what I was doing was because, like, you have advisors at these colleges, but they have, like, millions of students, and they don't really tell you how to get to where you want to go. So when I finally figured out I wanted to do nursing, there were like kind of like maps on how to get there, like online on the like college website, but it was like you have to take this prereq and those prereqs have prereqs. So like all these I was so confused, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So it took me a while to get where I was going, but yeah, it was more like I can see it logically now. Like it's a good thing I did what I did, and it's actually like a huge blessing that that my road worked out the way it did. But it didn't feel like that. It felt like completely like I was a failure, and I was like, and especially after I had my daughter, that people were like, oh, well, you know, Sonny's almost graduated, like, and Rianna's just has a kid and is still in college. It was definitely a lot of like self-comparison. Just not always purposely. It's just kind of like how you feel like when you see, because Sonny was graduating, and a lot of other people that we were in classes with, like in high school, are graduating, and you see this, you're like, oh, well, that's not happening for me.
I think though it comes as that stigma of like staying in your hometown. I don't know if they have that here, but like in a pop graph, he's like, I think there was a kid. I don't know if this is the right name, but we had like a superlative in high school in our senior year, like senior superlatives out in the yearbook, and then they take your picture. And I think they said like most likely to stay in like a popka, and that was like the biggest insult.
No, that was an actual insult.
Well, it is like it's kind of like, you know, when you see like a sitcom and you have that guy who stayed in his hometown, still wears his Letterman jacket type thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they peaked in high school type of thing.
Yeah. Peaked in high school basically. So you like kind of like don't want, like that's kind of like what made it seem. And we weren't from Florida. Like while we lived in Florida most of our life, we were from the West Coast, and we wanted to get back down there. And you know that was the goal, like because you know there's bigger and better things everywhere except where you are when you're in high school. You're like, I have to go out this. I have to go out here because this person went this. And, my school was in LA. Like, who doesn't want to go to LA and live the LA life every day? So you're like, it was like, oh man, I have to stay in little old Apopka. Like, and Apopka is fairly small. It's kind of big, small, but like people call it a small town. And it was just like, yeah, I don't want to stay here.
Yeah.
But now, like, I'm glad I am here because I'm growing up with, like, I have friends who did stay here, and I have, they're doing fine. And even if I don't stay here my whole life, like, I don't have to stay here my whole life, even though I stayed here just for college. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
That was, like, the only solace I had, like, moving away from Tallahassee is, like, I was so sad to leave all of my friends I had made in college, but I realized none of us are going to stay here anyway. Like, all of my friends now live in different places. Like, Laura lives in Miami, Spencer lives in Atlanta, Roman lives in Atlanta with Spencer. So it's, like, even if I would have stayed, like, in Tallahassee, like, it wouldn't have made a difference because I wouldn't have any friends there either.
Yeah. I mean, that wasn't something that I ever felt here living in Vegas, like, because I guess Vegas is a pretty big city.
Yeah,
but like,
it's different here.
Yeah, but there were people that were like, oh no, like, I have friends in high school that they went to like Boston for college and all these things. Oh, New York, Florida too. I was actually gonna ask you, like, Full Sail, like, I don't know if it's a college or university or like
yeah.
It's a college or university?
I guess a university.
Yeah, like,
it's a school. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard they had they have a really cool film program there. They have like a bunch of.
They have a lot of really good programs there. I think it's a for-profit though.
Yeah, it's
like one of the only like really art schools over here that you would like.
It's expensive though.
Oh yeah, no, it is expensive.
Hell expensive.
And that's the thing is like schools like that are, and it's like.
I mean, my dad wanted me to stay. He was like, he told me if I went to the college that was near me, and so I could stay at home and compute. Like, our college near us, like the university, is UCF, so University of Central Florida. My dad was like, if you go to UCF, I will buy you a car. He was like, I will buy you a car if you stay, because then you can commute to college. It's going to be cheaper because it is a cheaper university. And, like, you obviously wouldn't have to pay for, like, dorms or, like, you just have to pay for textbooks. And a lot of people that, like, we went to high school with also went to UCF because, like, there was that option. And it was still a 4-year university and not a community college. So I feel like a lot of people went there for that. And I was like, no. I was like, as enticing as it was, I, like, genuinely consider, I was like, I need to get out of it. And because I couldn't get out of Florida, like, I had to stay in Florida for college because I didn't get into any university out of state. I was like, I might as well go to the farther one, like Tallahassee, and then, like, get out. And I remember when I used to talk to my mom when I was in college, she was like, so are you going to come back to Apopka after college? And I was like, absolutely not. I was like, all of this will be a waste if I literally come back and live in Apopka after all of this. I was like, that's how I felt about it. And I know, like, for instance, I was talking to my friend Molly Herrera, and, like, she's one of, like, my best friends, and, like, we have, like, these kind of, like, deep conversations, and she was like, you went out and you left. She goes, I'm so proud that you left. And, like, that's mainly, like, a lot of people were like, you left, you actually did, because so many people want to and they feel like they can't, because it is hard. Like, obviously so many things have to align. Like, you need to have the money, you need to have a fucking job. Like, it's so difficult.
You have to have a job lined up if you're not working remotely, but if
and like it sucks. But I think, like, in that case too, like, when I think of, like, me and Rihanna's relationship, that's where it got even rockier, was because I think she felt like my parents, like, definitely prioritized me getting my education versus her. It definitely didn't seem like a level playing field at the time. I don't know if my parents would agree. But
I guess I would probably say, like, for us, when it came to me and my brothers, like, I guess our parents just left it up to us.
You're like, here, do what you want.
Because my oldest brother, he went to university here. I remember at one point he wanted to leave too because his friends were leaving. His friends in high school were like, oh, we're gonna go to, like, someone to Washington for, like, some kind of 4-year, like, college in engineering over there, and he wanted to make that choice, but he didn't. Which was good because it was during the recession, like, right? Because he graduated in 2005 from high school, but then he graduated from the 4-year college here. That's when we
moved to Florida, was in 2005. That's crazy.
Oh, really? Oh, damn.
Yeah.
And he graduated from 2008 from college, from UNLV,
but
he wanted to leave
to go to master's
to get his master's somewhere else. But then like that whole recession happened, and then like it was really hard to even find work. So he just ended up working here and going to school.
He's also the most logical, I think. I think Noah's very like, I'll do what makes the most sense.
Yeah, I know he is. He does that all the time.
And at the time, I would say me and Rianna, I don't know, like, I mean, for me, I'm not very logical. I just want to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And like, I wasn't like, if I would go back, like, I love that I went to FSU, but at the same time, I don't like all the debt. And I feel like even if I hadn't gone to college, I could have figured it out.
Yeah.
Especially because the world we live in is so different. But you can't predict that either. Like, the time that me and Rianna graduated high school and went to college, that was still what you did. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot of people not going and, like, being, like, what we considered successful.
Yeah.
So it was, like, this was, like, the sure thing. And, yeah, I mean, I think that me and Rianna would just, like... I think we honestly started getting along more, like... Once we were, like... I'd say after I graduated college. Like...
What do you think?
So, I think probably, like, halfway through Sonny's college thing, we were kind of, like, you know... We had more accountability for, like, ourselves. We're, like, what we want to do is up to us. And kind of our parents kind of reinforced that. I will say they did do that. Like, they reinforced that, like, idea. Like, what you guys want to do is up to you. Whether they agree with it or not and stuff. But... yeah, after she was almost done with college and, you know, I was getting to what I really wanted to do, it was more up to us. Like, if we don't finish, like, it's nobody's fault but ourselves. Like, and it's not because, you know, it's not because, you know, Sonny got to go to school and that's why she's successful because, while it's not, like, pictured very much, you can do what I did. Like, the only person who stopped you is you. And I think... I kind of, like, I learned that, like, the hard way, but I also, like, it helped because, like, Sonny, like, although, like, I feel I know she didn't have it easy. I think I pictured in my mind that she had it easy because she got, you know, help from my parents, help from this, blah, blah, but I know that, you know, she still had obstacles in her path.
Rianna literally used to tell me all the time. She was like, you have it, literally my freshman year, she was, you have it so easy. You don't have to work because, like, I didn't work my freshman year of college. That was the only year I didn't work was because I didn't have a car. That Rianna then sold our car to buy her own car. And, like, that we had back home. And she was like, you don't have to work. And my parents, yeah, they were giving me money, but it wasn't like I was living I was living in a shitty dorm and eating like
a jail cell, actually.
Eating like mac and cheese or like going to the dining hall, like, which didn't have the best options either. But like she would always say like, you just have it so easy because at the time, obviously, Rianna was working and going to school. And I was like, no, I don't. So we would always argue, like, kind of who had it harder. Like, who's dealing with more.
And I think now we see that, like, we both had obstacles. Like, Sonny will tell you, like, you know, like, she doesn't like to brag about me often, but when she does, she'll tell you, like, you know, that, like, I have overcome a lot. Like, because the first thing people told me, even Sonny, like, when I got pregnant, everyone was like, oh, my God, like, this is going to make it so much harder. While it is true, it is hard. It's a different type of motivation, and I've done extremely better than I probably ever would have if I didn't have her.
But that's the thing. When I said to, like, Rianna, because when Rianna called me, I was at work, and I already knew. I literally already knew that she was going to tell me she was pregnant, because I was like, I have a feeling. You know, the twin telepathy thing. And it wasn't, like... It was genuine concern because, like, at that point, you know how you're talking about, like, you just were always looking at what's best for, like, it was genuine concern because I knew that, like, it wasn't going to make it impossible, but it was going to make it significantly harder, and her path had already not been very, like, traditional, and I was like, how are you going to do it, and how are you going to provide? Because, like, I mean, I was thinking about me, too, like, at that point, like, I'm the same age as Rianna. I could not provide for a child, so, like, I'm like, how can my sister provide for one? So I'm like, I'm worried about, like, how is she gonna, like, how is this gonna work? I'm obviously, like, I mean, we love Jezebel, like, we love her daughter. But I just, like, I thought about, like, for instance, the situation that our parents were in. Like, our parents were always telling us, like, money's tight or this, and like I thought about like when I want to raise a child, I don't want ever to like have to deny my child of things. And so I was worried for Rianna because I knew Rianna didn't want that either. Like I knew Rianna wanted to give her child a certain kind of life, and like it was just going to be so much harder like with the situation that she was in.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's almost done, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
I think would you say it was would you say that challenged you to do like everything you want, like to not that everything you wanted to do, obviously, but everything that like you were planning already, like you use that as a way to prove people wrong?
I mean, yeah, that was a big motivation, like, because that was the first thing most people told me, like, oh my gosh, how are you going to finish school? Like, family told me this, like, it's going to be so hard. And it is, but the hardest part about my life is not raising my kid. It's, nursing school is hard in general. Nursing school is hard without a kid. School is hard without a kid. Like, that's not the hardest part of my life. And I just knew that, like, I had never, like, I've pushed myself. But, like, it was a different type of motivation after having her. I had somebody else to fight for, not just me. So, like the first semester after I had Jezebel, like, I was on the dean's list. Because it was just that much more effort that I was putting into it. Because, like, I need to do this. And that's why, like, I think I learned the most accountability that, like, it's just me. Like, I learned what I was capable of. And even now, like, I have people I work with or people, like, I go to school with. They're like, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, you just do it because you have no choice. And, like, as much as, like, I don't want to give other people the satisfaction of them thinking that I'm thinking about what they think about me all the time, like, I am, like, on the day that I graduate, I'm going to be like, you know what? I did it in spite of what anybody who doubted me. Because, like, at the end of the day, it's all up to you.
Yeah.
There's no longer, like, it's not my parents' fault because, I sent Sonny over here. It's not anybody's fault. Like, we did have completely different paths, but I think our paths and our environments benefited us in ways that we are starting to realize. Like, Sonny said, like, oh, well, Rianna took the logical way. I was forced to take the logical way. And like I said at the time, it was not what I considered the logical way anyway.
I was like in my little dream world. I was like, la-di-da-di-da, I'm going to do what I want.
We both had different perspectives on what, like, in that case, we had, like, the same perspective on what was success and what was going to do this. And, like, my way had started, like, down. So I was like, it was just going downhill. And Sonny started up here. She was just climbing. But then I kind of realized that we were kind of at the same space. Like, we were kind of both climbing at the same time. We just didn't acknowledge it as that. Like, I think me and Sonny both grew immensely when we were in college. And that's not why now we can sit down and have conversations. Like, even if we don't agree on something, like, we don't really argue with each other or anything like that now because we don't necessarily feel the need to compare or anything like that now because we realize that, like, we're really in charge of how well we're doing and how all that goes.
I would say, though, too, like, the thing that me and Rianna didn't understand, like, when we didn't get along when we were in college is, like, the things that we didn't see. So, like, Rianna was saying, like, oh, she went to university. She wasn't saying that I failed one class 3 times because I couldn't manage, like, my, like, working full-time and, like, going to school. I was like, I didn't even tell you that I failed a class 3 times. I literally passed it my last semester of college, like, on, like, a whim and a prayer, like, to be honest. Like, I don't know how I did it, but, like, and, like, I was thinking that, like, Rianna had it easier because I was like, oh, community college classes are easier. But I'm like, nothing's really easy. Like, when it comes to, like, that higher education, it's not easy at all, no matter, like, where you go. It's still, like, you have to put as much time and effort into things. So, like, I don't think either of us were really, like, thinking about that at the time. Nor were we going to share it because we just kind of wanted to make it seem like we were doing what...
our own little bubble. I always tell Sonny, like, people, especially because, like, even now, like, we will compare ourselves to other people, like she said, her friends, that are in similar businesses, stuff like that, and see how well they're doing. When you see people, especially on social media or any, like, social media, like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, anything like that, you see people's highlight reels.
Yeah.
Like, you don't see the good, the bad, and the ugly, and that's what me and Sonny, like, when we were in college, even if I was struggling, like, we portrayed our highlight reels. We were not going to let each other know that we were struggling, and it is until now that we talk about it, like, yeah, I went through this, this, and this, and we have, like, a mutual respect for each other because we now understand that, like, while it seems somebody else's path is easier, it doesn't mean it is, and doesn't mean they're not going through their own stuff, and it's not one person's struggle just because it doesn't seem as bad as yours isn't less because it's not bad. Like we have a thing in nursing, like the fifth vital sign is like pain, and someone's 10 could be your 2 and vice versa. So it's all subjective. It's based on what like they're feeling at the time or you're feeling. So you can't tell somebody that they're not struggling, or you also can't tell somebody they're not doing well, because we all don't have the same versions of well or successful or anything. Some people like to, like Sonny said, some people like this, and I think on her last podcast, that people live like wanting, I want to be here and look at this, I want to be doing that. And there's I listened to a similar thing that says that we all live in a state of we want to be better, we want to have bigger things, nicer, like whether at all we live in the state that we're looking towards all these other things when we're not looking where we're at and how great we're doing. And like we definitely, like growing up, we didn't have that skill. I think now we're kind of like harnessing it in that, we are like, we're good where we are, no matter what. What we do for ourselves, like it's for us, it's subjective. If we're successful, if we feel like we're happy and all that, it's not up to anybody else. If someone doesn't think I look happy or doesn't think I'm successful, that's their problem. It's not mine. How
much of it do you think, though, like how much of the decisions do you think you made were in spite of me versus like you made them because of like our parents? Like, cause for instance, for me, like I think a lot of the decisions weren't just like based on like Rianna and like that comparison. It was because I wanted to please my parents. So like I would have done anything to make my parents happy.
I think I made decisions in spite of you, but not necessarily in spite of our parents, because I already knew where my parents' focus was on. It was not on me unless I was doing something bad. So it wasn't like, and to be honest, like my parents were pretty chill, even with Sonny. Like there was no one telling us, oh, well, you have to get good grades. Like it was kind of like obvious, like we should get good grades. Like we knew that. Me and Sonny knew that. We didn't need to be pushed to do that. We both got good grades. Sonny just took extremely harder classes than any of us. But so I didn't necessarily need the validation because I already knew it was going to go to Sonny. So I was like, I'll do what I can. And then that works out for me. Like it doesn't, I did stuff like in spite of Sonny because, like just teenagers are petty and like we were both teenagers. Like we wanted to be different. We wanted to like do different things. So in that sense, like I made decisions like on friend groups and other stuff like that. But
Rianna was like so in high school. She was like, because I was a cheerleader in high school, and she was so like, you're such a cheerleader. I hate all your cheerleader friends, and like she was just so biased just because I was a cheerleader.
It wasn't even just that. I was just not into clickiness, and Sonny was really like close with these people, and I'm like, I think in high school that's kind of like when you want to be close to your siblings or like your sister, because like, our home definitely wasn't like an episode of Full House, like where you go home and you have the sentimental music and it's like, oh, what's wrong? But like it wasn't like that. So I feel like you kind of want to be close to your sister in high school, and I think that since we weren't, it kind of made things harder. Like I don't know, it was different. Like I think I wanted to be close to her, and Sonny kind of still wanted to be like out with her friends and stuff, because like I was really to myself. Sonny had like friend groups that I just didn't necessarily.
The thing is, like looking back on them, they weren't even friends. Like I never felt like I fit in with like one group of people. That's why I say like I didn't meet like really good friends until college, because like with my friends that I have now, despite us being so far away, like I feel immensely close to them, and like I would talk to them about anything. I don't feel like they're judging me. The friend groups I had in high school, I felt like I had a tread on like thin ice. Like being a cheerleader, it is cliquey, and like a lot of people didn't like me because I was very emotional, and like they called me crybaby. Like these were people who were supposed to be my friends. So like it was just like looking back, I wouldn't consider them like actual like friends as much as I wanted them to be. The only reason I was just craving relationship with people. I wanted to be a part of like people's groups, but I never was that like core member. I was someone that could be dragged along if they wanted me, but like I wasn't getting all the invites. Like I wasn't getting invites to parties. I wasn't getting invites to people's houses. Like I was that like just that friend that like hoped I got the invite, which like I think that was like when Rianna would mention like those friends, I would get really defensive because like at the time I couldn't see that like they weren't actually really good friends. Like I only saw what I wanted out of those relationships, and like. Yeah, so I'd be like, Rianna would be like, your friends are so, like, you know, she would literally say, she goes, they're bitches, Sonny. Like, I was like, no, they're not. And, like, some of them, no. Like, some of them I genuinely like. And, you know, everyone changes after high school. So, like, I don't think any of them meant anything. But, like, you know, like, it was just, like, some of them just weren't good friends. But now, like, I see what they're doing on, like, social media. I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. But, like, they weren't, like, I don't have, like, a lot of people I talk to from high school. And of the people I do, none of them were the ones that I cheered with. Maybe Molly Herrera, like, she was honestly, like, my genuine, like, close, one of my best friends. But, like, the only other person.
That's where the whole thing you said was, like, wanting the best for somebody. Because, like, I kind of, like, saw who these people were because I was on the outside. And it wasn't just me being biased because Sonny was a cheerleader. A lot of it was, like, I saw how these people act around other people.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want Sonny to go through that because Sonny will tell you, like, there was a lot of times her feelings were hurt because, like, it was very cliquey. And, like, when we were in high school, like, a lot of people on the cheer team, like, their parents had money. So they had cars, they had this, they had that. Like,
I mean, we had a little broke down car.
It was a 97 or 98 Infiniti. And these people had, like, they probably weren't brand new, they were probably used, but they were in good condition. Like, and so, like, we didn't get ours till senior year. So these people, some of these got cars as soon as they were able to drive. And so Sonny hanging out with those people, it was kind of like always like a letdown sometimes. And I was like, I was there trying to like remind her, like, yo, like, not all those people are going to be like there for you when you need them. And I mean, she found that out herself.
I would say though, I did the same for you because you had friends that weren't always there. I mean, we both had. There are like core friends that Rianna and I had, like that we've grown up with, like that we've just always known. That I was like, these people are never gonna like always show up. Like, but yeah, in that case, like I think like. Rianna did want, like, to, like, show me that these people kind of sucked, but she never had a good way of doing it. It always just felt like, oh, you're just mad because, like, X. Or, like, when I decided to, Rianna played flag football in high school, and our freshman year, I wasn't going to play, but I was like, oh, I'm going to try out. And Rianna got so mad. She was like, this is supposed to be my thing. Like, you have cheerleading, I'm going to play flag football. And I was like, no, all my friends are doing it, so I'm going to do it. And, like, that's the only reason I played, but, like, I ended up loving it and, like, continuing to play. But, like, there were things that, it's funny to look back at the decisions that we made just to, like, be, like, better than each other, I guess. But I think though too that like our parents like didn't see, like, you know how we all have like emotional needs. I think that they just didn't like know what we needed to like for us to get along. I think that we like if they would have sat us down and been like, hey, look, like you guys don't have to like compare each other, like it would have been different.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they did do that. Like, our parents were like, you know, Sonny, and you. Even now they say that, but, like, it was more of, like...
We could make it a little bit more believable.
Sonny was all... Like, the thing is, like, they joked about it. Like, they joked more like my dad. My dad joked about, like, Sonny was going to be the breadwinner and whatnot, and... I was very, like Sonny said, I was very much into fashion.
But that's not even true because, for instance, Rianna and my dad were pretty close growing up. And, like, I didn't get along with my dad at all. Like, I had, like, almost wanted nothing to do with him. So my dad would joke to me, and this is where, like, my need for validation comes in. He had this, like, joke, and it was just a joke. Like, my dad's not a bad person.
What you're going to say. You're going to say the tea, the chips.
He was, like, he'd be like, here's, like, his list of like not priorities, but like how much he likes you. He was like, you know, there's Austin. Chips, there's Austin, there's Rianna, there's the dog, and then there's you.
Dang.
Like me. And I was like, it was funny, like it was a joke, or like my dad would like be like, he didn't think I had any friends because I stayed in the house all the time, despite like, obviously I did extracurriculars and I cheered, but like other than that, on a Friday night, I was home. And so when my dad was home and like he would see me in my room like watching Netflix on my laptop, he'd be like, don't you have any friends? He was like, oh, your friends here right now? Like, he would joke about that stuff. And low-key, though, like, I was, like, one time, my dad is just very interesting. I was in the car with him, and I was just talking, and we were just, like, I don't know where we were driving, but I was telling him, he was like, Sonny, do you have low self-esteem? And I was like, I don't know. But I think back to these conversations, and a lot of it was, like, I'm my own worst critic. I have insanely low self-esteem and confidence sometimes, and like all these issues that I didn't know I was dealing with at the time, and I don't think my parents knew that that's what it was. And like, so I would just fight for like them like to say like to be the best. So I was like, or even like with my friends, like I hung out with a lot of smart people and people who were like innately smart. Like I'm smart because I work hard. I'm not smart because I'm naturally smart. And so I had to work harder than some, and I was like, damn, why can't I just, like, understand this? Or, like, yeah, like, I was failing physics at one point, and, like, my dad was like, Sonny, why don't you just understand this? We just like, I don't know. I just don't understand it.
I think a lot of times, too, like, we kind of, like, hid it from our parents, so, like, what we were going through, because, like, you know, parents never understand, like,
yeah.
And Sonny, like Sonny said, like, this is where we grew up in different environments. Me and my dad were really close, like, so that was, like, my backbone, although he didn't live with us for most of the time. And Sonny was, like, my mom's, like, baby. Like, if something happened, like, the resources, they're going to Sonny. If this boat's sinking, Sonny's on the lifeboat. So, like, we very much knew that. So Sonny's lifeboat was, like, always there because my mom was always there. But my dad, like, he traveled in and out of town, so it was, like, I think that's where, like, our different environments kind of were because, like, I feel like Sonny had her resources there and I didn't all the time. So, like, it made it more difficult. And Sonny didn't, Sonny didn't want to talk to my dad about some of the stuff that, like, she went through. And even, like, my mom was a very busy person because she worked a lot. So, like, it was kind of like, okay, we need to figure out this stuff out ourselves.
Yeah.
It just meant, like, crying in our room or, like, letting out some tears and just getting over it because, like, there was nothing, like, logically we felt like we could do.
I think, though, too, like, it's just, I don't know. It's just, yeah, the thing is our environment was so different, too, and it wasn't very traditional, given that, like, our dad lived out of town, and then, like he would come home for, like, the holidays, and, like, the thing is, I had, like, a good relationship with my mom, but, like, obviously, like, my mom also worked all the time, so I couldn't talk to her. So, like Rianna said, like, we kind of had to, like, learn to, like, figure stuff out. And, like, at the same time, I think Rianna was just more vocal. So, I was someone who didn't want to piss anyone off. And so, like, I would just, like, very much, like, try to walk on this middle line of not being too out of line and not being too, like, you know, just, like, staying in the middle, like, what I saw as, like, neutral at the time. And it wasn't until, like, I really got to college where I was, like, I can't continue doing stuff for, like, my parents. Like, I've got to do what's going to make me happy. And, like, those were hard conversations. And I think a lot of people grow up with, like, this desire to please their parents of just doing what's best for you. Like, when I told my mom I was moving out here, I mean, Rianna knew before my mom did, and I was like, don't tell her, like, that I have a date because she's gonna, like, get mad because we had already argued over it. And, like, then when I made the decision, like, I started to grow closer to my dad because my dad was like, good, like, you should not stay in Florida. Like, you need to go find other opportunity. And my mom was like, I think she just felt like I was, like, abandoning her. And that's not obviously my intention, but it was like, I need to go and, like, fly now, you know. I've spent, like, these 4 years, and now I really gotta, like, test myself and, like, what am I capable of? And, like, I can no longer rely on my parents to agree with everything I do, whereas Rianna never really cared if they agreed with her. She was just like, oh, they don't have to agree, like, I know. Like, I would say Rianna was much more sure of herself, like, than I was just, like, looking to my parents for, like, is this the right thing? Is this what you want me doing? Is this what you want? And then, like, Rianna was just like, It doesn't matter. Like, I'm gonna do what I feel is best.
Yeah.
But I mean, what do you think with like growing up with? How do you think your life changed growing up with like siblings? Because you have 2 siblings, so essentially you're kind of very similar to like the dynamic that Rianna and I have. Because obviously I have 2 siblings. I have my identical twin, and then I have Austin.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what do you think? How do you think that impacted like your like upbringing and your development?
No, I definitely would say, like I was saying at the beginning, is like you have, obviously they're both older than me.
Oh yeah, that's true. Baby.
So
Baby
I was the young. So I was the youngest. So there definitely was like this. Again, it wasn't like rivalry. It was just more of like they wanted what was best for me based on their experience that they had. You know, like they were like looking out for me and whatnot. So there was that, but then also like they wanted to like teach me things, you know. Oh, like what? Like, oh, you should.
Did that ever get like annoying?
No, I mean the stuff that got annoying that we would fight about was always. That's why when you guys talk about fighting, it was always the stupidest things. It was always over like me like grab like actually, you know, it's like stuff that you guys fought about. It was like grabbing someone's stuff that's not mine. Like, I moved like I would never put on other people's clothes, but I would like I would move I would move stuff around, and then like, or I would like be going through the drawers because we had to share like different drawers. We because we had like 2 different rooms we had to share, and like so I would move stuff around, and he would get like one of my older brothers would get mad, and then
Was it Noah?
No, it was Johnny.
Oh, well, I was like, Noah gets mad when we
he was the one that I fought most with growing up. Noah, on the other hand,
you
was
guys were
like,
closest in age, though. I think that has plays into it.
My oldest brother Noah, he was like the mediator, so he would see us fighting and he would come in and stop it. So he would be like, "You guys are being dumb. Like, why are you fighting?"
The thing is, though, like when you say that, like he's a mediator. When it came to like Rianna, me, and Austin, I think Austin always took sides. Like it was like one. He's like, you either with
on this one.
he was like this one, and this one. And it's just like he got to choose who he like liked more that day. And I think like. Honestly, I think a lot of people do this. Like, they go back and forth. Like, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Me and my sister had friends who would go back and forth between us. Like, today I like her, today I don't like her, like, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, what?
Cesar, do you feel like you ever just, like, when, like, you said they wanted the best for you, and they kind of, like, oh, like, teach you based off experience. Like, oh, I went through this, so this is what you shouldn't do this. You ever feel like you just wanted to learn it on your own, though? Like, you just wanted
yeah, I mean, I kind of did after, like, high school, just, like, not to say they didn't care about anything that I did. It was more of like they weren't. I kind of like took control of like the car. You know, like let's say like I use that as an analogy. Like let's say I'm driving, they were like the backseat drivers. Yeah. So they were like saying things, you know, and then sooner or later, like I was like, "Hey, can you guys just get out of the car?" And like,
just kicks them out of the car.
Yeah, not kicks them out. It's more like you get to the destination, and they're like, "All right, cool."
It's like it sounds like you're driving down the highway. Can you guys get out? You're really annoying.
I think that's a lot. Like it's almost like having like when you have older siblings, at least it's like having extra parents, like telling you,
yes,
well,
yeah,
I did this,
yeah,
and I think it's very like much like everybody. Like me and Sonny, like we grew up in the same environment, but our path was very different. Even if we did the same exact thing, like we both went to FSU, our path would be very different.
Yeah.
Your parents saying, you know, well, this happened to me when I did that, doesn't necessarily mean it will happen to you. I mean, sometimes it's really good advice, like, hey, you shouldn't do drugs, whatever. Good advice. But like other little things, like, you know, my mom specifically was very worried about Sonny moving to Vegas. She was like, you know, I don't know if you're doing it for the right reasons, you're doing this and that, like, but it ended up working out pretty well for Sonny, like,
just depression.
Not to say that it won't have its bumps in the road, but like, so there are some things you got to figure out for yourself, and like in your case, like you just had extra like moderators in there, like telling you like, oh hey, like this probably shouldn't do this.
I think it can be like bad too to like try to like, because honestly learning through experience is the best. And like obviously there's like Rianna said, there's things that obviously you should listen to that are just kind of like known, like, hey, you shouldn't do this. But like when it comes to like someone saying, oh, I don't think you should do this because this could happen, it's like, but we don't know that it will. Like just because this happened for you doesn't mean that it's gonna happen for me. And I think like my mom's perspective is that like she like, her and my dad were both in the Navy. They met in the Navy. And then, like, my mom kind of just moved where, like, when they were married, my dad, like, we moved with his job. And that's what we did, is, like, we lived in California. And then once he got an opportunity in Florida, we moved there. And then he got an opportunity in Texas, and we were supposed to move there. And I think my mom, from her perspective, she was like, if I'm going to move across the country, I need to make sure that I'm not just doing it for you, which sounds bad, but, like, she wanted to make sure, like, it's something, like, I could see myself, like, being happy no matter, I think, with or without you. Mm-hmm. And, like, I was like, yeah, no, like, I mean, and I think she was just scared of that, but, like, also, like, her telling me not to at that point in my life was just, like, I'm going to do it even more now. Like, I'm going to, like, you know, some of those things don't even dissuade people. They just make them want it even more because you're telling them, like, oh, it's not going to work out. And, like, again, like, it comes back to, like, you're the kind of creator of your own destiny. Like, you at the end of the day, we do what we want. Like, people can give us advice, but people don't know, honestly, like, how things are going to pan out. And, like,
they don't have the grand book of, like, what's going to happen in your story. So, like, someone can say, oh, well, I went through this, and this is exactly the path that you should go on, like, step for step. And it may not work out for you.
Yeah, and I think about, like, how you had, like, you said, like, you have, like, obviously older brothers who are telling you, like, you know, giving you advice on, like, what you should and shouldn't do, and, like, you know, being backseat drivers. I think of it like how, obviously, I have older cousins. Like, they're not my siblings, but the older people in my family love to tell me what's the right way to do things. Or, like, what you should do. Or even, like, my parents, for instance. My parents would literally be like, oh, you should, like, my dad when I got to college, oh, you should major in health administration, a lot of money there. Like, because they have their own desires for you. Everyone in your family or that you're friends with, they kind of have, like, their own desires of what they hope happens for you. And, like, when you don't align your life with that, they're like, oh, you're screwing it up. Like, they're kind of using you, like, as a pawn. Like, not intentionally, but they're like, oh, if you just do this, like, I know you could do this, and then you'd have, like, so much more opportunity. They see it as, like, a way to, like, help you, but sometimes it's, like, hurting you because, like, you feel like you have to live up to some type of standard, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, I forget what the term is, but there's, like, a proper term for, like, when you have kids that you want them to, like, do what you couldn't do.
You're living, like, vicariously
yeah,
through your
vicariously,
kids.
Yeah. So, like, you want to, like, put them in this, whether it's, like, oh, I always wanted to play soccer, so my kids are going to play soccer.
You can always tell a mom or
like
a parent that's living vicariously through their kids, though. And that's the worst thing you could do. It's like that little joke in movies, in the dramas, where they're like, this isn't my dream, Dad. It's yours.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's literally, like, parents do that, and it honestly can be so damaging to kids because they don't begin to know who they are as a person. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing, or even if that's what they want to be doing. Like, I don't think my parents did that, but I do think that obviously every parent wants you to do better than they did. Like, obviously your parents they moved here because they wanted you to do better than they did. They wanted you to have more opportunity. And same with my parents, is like, they wanted us to have everything that they couldn't give us or that they didn't have when they were in our spot. And I think as parents, when you see, like, it doesn't work out like that, like, they feel, like, kind of guilty. They feel like it's their fault, even though it's not, because obviously me and Rianna are adults now. We're 24. We make our own decisions. There's nothing our parents can do to change those things. And so anything that we make, any decision we make isn't really their fault. Although parents will always think that it's their fault. I mean, Rianna, you have a daughter now. Like, what would you say about it?
I have very different views on parenting based on, like, just how we grew up in general. So, like, I feel like I parent a little differently. Like, I like to want to support Jezebel and whatever she did. Like, but I can't speak because I'm not in a situation. She's 3 years old, so she pretty much listens to me. But when she gets older, like, I would want her to know I support the decisions she makes, whether, you know, that's going to college or going to a trade school or going to an art school or doing whatever, because there's so many different things you can do. And I think that, like, some people never express that. It's really just about being, like, happy with what you want and, like, happy with yourself and your family. Like, not everybody needs, like, millions of dollars to be happy, or, you know, like, every new thing to be happy. Like, I think that I'll just enforce that, it's about, finding what makes you happy and joyful and, all the little things in between. I think I have a different parenting style just based off because I don't want, Jessica to ever feel how sometimes we feel. I'm not to say she won't go through her own trials and stuff, but like I want her to feel like she has a support. She can talk to me like, I'm not going to be too busy or anything like that. Like, it'll just always be an option that I'm there for her. Like,
I think about it though too because like for instance, like you put her in gymnastics, and obviously that's not something like we really had the opportunity to do, like growing up. Like we played soccer obviously, and like we did things, but there were things obviously that we couldn't do, like that we wish we would have been able to do.
And I think that's everybody. I think even our parents, they learn by like every parent learns by like trial and error, like what works for you and works for them. Because of that, parenting, there is not a grand book to like everything that works for parenting. Like there are days I feel like, oh man, I'm failing at this because I can't get Jessica to listen one day, and I'm like, man, what did I do? But I'm sure like our parents felt like that. That's where I have to give them credit. Like my mom had like 3 kids under 2 years old at the same time. Like, and I imagine that was hard. And then when we were growing up, she was kind of like the sole parent, like in the household all the time. So like she had to play like good and bad cop. So it definitely affected like how we were raised because, it wasn't easy for her. And she had not only on top of being a parent, she had to work, and she worked crazy long hours. And I can see now as an adult, like how that could be hard. And like when you have all that going on, it's hard to remember like your kids have stuff going on too, because everything, when you have your own issues, they seem so big compared to everybody else's. So and that's even including your kids. Like sometimes I have to remember like Jezebel, like when I'm having a bad day, like I can't really have a bad day because like Jezebel needs me. And so I kind of have to shake off a lot, and I imagine that both my parents had to do that pretty often. I think they still do. Like I talk to them sometimes, my mom more frequently, but they just had to definitely shake off a lot. And even now, as a parent, you worry. Like that's one thing that like you do worry what's gonna happen to them. But and I think my parents did worry a lot, and even now still do. Like, we're still. Even at 24, we're still learning. We're still making what we want of our life. Still.
You mean you haven't figured it out yet, Rianna? What the heck?
Still trying to figure it out. Housing market's crazy. Like, but that's stuff that's out of our control. Like that stuff. And I think that even now they still worry. Like even with Sonny with a degree and me almost with a degree, they're like, oh,
things could still go either way. We could still be drug addicts one day.
Don't say that.
There's still time.
I could definitely see just how being a parent, like, it makes life different. It definitely does.
Would you say that, like, after you becoming a parent, it changed your relationship with me? Like, you would think that it did something to our relationship?
I think being a parent changed my relationship with almost everybody. With friends, with family, with everybody, because, like, obviously, like, my group of friends my age, like, they like, some of them, not all of them, still like to go out, whenever they want. They have that free will to, do whatever the hell they want all the time. Whereas I don't. And even, like, after I had Jessica, I wanted Jessica to really grow up with a lot of family. Because I do think that's important. Me and my parents don't always get along, and even Sonny doesn't always get along with them, but they're still a family, and I still we still very much try to embrace that. Still try to work things out where they can be worked out, and I want those people in Jezebel's life because it's not my decision whether they're good people for her. I mean, it is kind of, but my grudges are not her grudges. So if I'm mad about something, most of it's petty stuff. It's not for Jezebel to be mad at. And that's for her to form her own opinions on when she has a relationship with those people, especially family. So, and Sonny, I feel like although she didn't agree with everything that I was doing at the time and all, me even having a child at the time, she was one of the only people there for me. when I needed things, so, and she got things for Decibel that we needed, we were living in our apartment at the time, so it was all very new, because after I found out I was pregnant with Decibel, that's when me and Uncle started saving for an apartment. So we got our apartment, and we'd only been in there, like, probably, like, 5 months before we had her. And we had her, and it was all, like, a lot at once, because then you have a baby, and then you have, like, a whole household to take care of, so it was a lot, and I feel like Sonny was there when we needed it, so, I mean, it definitely changed our relationship. But
yeah, I'm gonna need to put you on that payment plan, by the way, so...
I think it changed for a good way, for most people. Like, for friends, not so much. Because a lot of people, like, a baby's a bummer to some people, but I asked
baby's a bummer.
They are, because a lot of people don't want to hang out with you and your kid a lot, so, like, I kind of don't hang out with those people anymore, like, but I think that's for the best, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it, like, changed the way, too, like, I saw our relationship, because I was like, she's gonna have a whole, like, human, and I remember meeting Jezebel for the first time when she was, like, 2 weeks old, and she was so tiny.
Yeah.
And I was like, crap, like, she has a whole child, and, like, I think, like, I've only experienced this, like, one other time in my life, and it was when one of, like, me and Man's friends had a child, like, how that changes a person, and, like, for the better, like, a lot of times it really makes people just, like, see, like, they brought this life into the world, and they're like, I want to give this baby everything. And, like, I've seen, like, many people change for the better, and I think that's, like, all I wanted for Rianna was to change. Not to change, like, obviously, she's my sister, I'll care for her either way, but, to, like, make sure that she was going to be okay. And then, like, once I saw that she was going to be okay, I was like, okay, like, maybe this isn't, like, the worst thing. There's other things that could happen. But yeah, I do want to talk about one more thing, and then we'll end. There's this thing called the social comparison theory, and it's kind of just how we compare ourselves to others. And there's, like, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, there's benefits in comparing yourself, and then there's, like, obviously downsides. And I'm like, I kind of wonder, at what point does it turn from motivation to unhealthy?
To compare.
Yeah, to compare yourself to someone. At what point is it motivation, and at what point is it, like, just straight up unhealthy?
I think when you're, like, I mean, I would have no idea, but maybe, like, when you're starting to, like...
Cesar's like, I don't compare myself to anyone.
No, I don't think it's healthy, that's why. But, I mean, that's the main reason
okay,
why.
Mr. Perfect.
No, I'm not saying that either.
You like Cesar.
No, I mean, I'm just saying that...
Cesar, like, when we talk about these things, it's like he's never struggled, like, he's like, yeah, no, I don't really think about that. No, I never thought about it.
Well, I mean, like, I think it becomes unhealthy when it's just, like, it's making you constantly fear or, like, have anxiety over, like, something that you have not to say you have maybe you have control over, maybe to a certain extent, on maybe what you're comparing yourself against. Maybe if it's you not having a house, then go, figure things out, take time to get a house. I don't know,
just do it.
Not to say just do it, but
I get what you're saying. When it starts to affect your life, then I think it's unhealthy.
It's unhealthy, yeah.
Me, like, I think in general, like, I don't think comparison can benefit you, because, I mean, for some, yeah, it makes them work harder. But at the end of the day, if they're not doing it for themselves,
yeah,
or they're doing it for someone else.
If you're doing it for someone else versus doing it for yourself,
that's unhealthy.
I would say, like, for instance, I'm very motivated by other people, and, like, in the sense, like, for instance, when I met you, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's amazing. I need to figure out how to get on his level. And not in a healthy way. It's like I actually wanted to better myself. And then even with people I work with a lot of very creative people that have knowledge in just all these things. And I'm like, oh, really? I should, like, look into some of these things. So I think that's, like, healthy comparison of, like, it motivating you to do things that are good for yourself. But if you're just like, oh my gosh, I think if you're always feeling like you're never gonna, like, measure up because you're comparing yourself to someone else, then I think it's unhealthy. And then there's this one thing I was reading last night when it came up in this topic is that, like, men are actually more likely to inflate themselves, like, to, like, inflate, like, their egos. Do you agree with that?
Do you mean, like, to overcompensate for what they're actually, who they actually are?
Yeah.
I believe that. Yeah, because I know people that did that. They would, like, whether it was meeting somebody for the first time, like, they would, not to say, like, maybe they would, I would probably say, like, overselling yourself.
Yeah.
Like, because you want to be, either because you want to be seen as, like, this great person, you know, and you don't want to, because you may or may not see yourself that way. Maybe that's the reason why people do that, because they see themselves as that great person, but they might not be. So I believe that it's a good selling technique. I thought it was so funny. It's a good way to sell yourself. You know, if you fake who you are.
You can always, but I feel like you can see through that bullcrap. Like, I can always see when someone's lying. So, like, it's like, no, don't, like, just.
Sometimes it's not even lying. It's just making more of something. Like, oh, they make more money, so they think of themselves in a higher position.
Yeah. They're like, oh, I'm more valuable.
They'll flaunt themselves that way. Like, you know, like.
Yeah.
So, I think I've seen that a lot, but.
Same. I've seen that too.
I think that's been today's episode. For anyone who has made it this far, I think this is a super long podcast, but it's okay. We thank you for listening. If you're listening on YouTube, please like and subscribe to our channel. And then also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please rate our podcast so we get in front of more people. Because Cesar and I really like doing this, and we'll continue to do it no matter how many people listen. But, you know, it'll help if people rate the podcast. And yeah, I think that's it. This has been Growing Together with me, Sonny Vasquez.
Me, Cesar Santos. And
me, Rianna Vasquez.
My twin. So yeah, we hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you and hear. I guess you'll hear us next week.
See you later.
Bye.